Hey guys, Yips here, coming at you with another video, and today we're going to talk about Creeping Death. So, the reason I want to talk about Creeping Death with you guys here today is because it is by far the most overpowered talent that probably almost any class got in the new expansion. Creeping Death is on an insane tier of power level for very, specific situations, but a wide range of situations. So I want to talk about why that is today, what makes it so OP, what exactly it is, what it does, and then also what situations it kind of sucks in, alright? So, what Creeping Death does, your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. So what does that mean? So we're going to take a look and we're going to analyze this with our dots so you can get a full understanding of what this thing does. So without taking Creeping Death, we're going to look at our Corruption. So our Corruption lasts 14 seconds exactly. It has a 3,368 damage attached to it. So if I put it on the boss, we can see that. Every 1.5 seconds, this guy is taking 336 shadow damage over 14 seconds. And in the end, when all is said and done, it's going to add up to that damage that it says here on my tooltip. Alright, so that's what a base Corruption looks like. Now let's talent into Creeping Death and see what it looks like now. Corrupt the target, causing the same amount of damage over 11.9 seconds instead. Alright, so that duration was decreased by 2.1 seconds, which is 15% of 14. So we're going to put the Corruption on the target and see what it does. Suffering 336 shadow damage, so the same amount of shadow damage every 1.3 seconds. So the talent doesn't increase the damage of the dot, it just reduces the duration and increases the tick rate in order to increase the damage, alright? So that's what Creeping Death does. Now, why does this make it so OP? Because you might be thinking, that has some disadvantages with the talent like Death Bolt or something. We'll get to that later. But what makes it so OP is our Agony ticking faster. And the way that Agony works is that every time Agony ticks, it's going to give us a proportion of a soul shard. And then eventually, that proportion is going to equal 1. We'll see that full shard realized on our Warlock, so we put Agony on this target. Eventually we will get a shard. Boom, it ticked, we got a shard. And then it's going to tick a few more times, and it's going to take a while, but eventually we'll get another shard. Okay. So, the fact that our Agony is ticking 15% faster means directly that we are going to be receiving 15% more soul shards when we take this talent. And that's what makes it so great. There are a few other benefits, I'll talk about those, but that's truly the most overpowered fact of it, is that don't need to do anything. Not only does it increase the speed that our dots tick, but it also is giving us 15% more shards to cast Unstable Affliction. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, Soul Conduit does the same thing. Well, not really. Soul Conduit, yes, it gives 15% for a shard to be refunded, but technically speaking, that would probably be closer to like 18 or 19% shard gen. So Soul Conduit is slightly better at giving you shards than Creeping Death, so you might be thinking, why don't you take Soul Conduit? And the reason is that your other dots is you get to refresh them more frequently. So when you're on a single target boss encounter, a lot of time you have downtime in your rotation where you don't have anything to cast, and you're just sitting there and you're casting Shadow Bolt. What it means when you take Creeping Death is, since your dots are expiring more quickly and dealing that damage more quickly, is you're going to be spending less time casting Shadow Bolt and more time casting your high damage dots. Because the damage that one dot deals, when when I press Corruption, the damage that one Corruption deals over the course of an instant cast is way higher than the damage that a 1.5 second cast Shadow Bolt will do. I mean, you can just look at the two. Corruption deals 3,368 damage. Shadow Bolt only deals 973 damage. That's a huge difference. And the fact that we get to press Corruption, Siphon Life, and Agony more frequently instead of our Shadow Bolt just makes it that much stronger, okay? So those are the main benefits of the talent. The fact that we just get to cast our dots more often, we get to Shadow Bolt less, we get more shards. Those are the positives of the talent. Now let's talk a little bit about the negatives of the talent. So the negatives of Creeping Death is your dots are falling off more quickly, and you're thinking, that's a negative? Yes, it is a negative if your dots fall off more quickly. If you're not able to get to the target in time to refresh, you're going to lose your Agony stacks. If you're in a situation where there's a lot of targets, you won't be able to maintain all of your dots on all of the targets because they're just falling off too quickly. You won't have time to cast Unstable Afflictions. So there's a lot of situations where Creeping Death, simply because it's making you go too fast and you don't have the haste to compensate for that, and you lose too many other stats if you're trying to get that haste, it makes it a little bit weak. So just to kind of exemplify the situation, I'm going to take off every single piece of haste gear that I have, just to really, you know, kind of show my point of what I'm talking about here. So we're going to go down in the dumps in terms of haste stat right now. So we are not a very hasty boy. We have 4% haste, all right? And let's see what this tries to look like when I try to maintain my dots on 4 targets. Now, this is an extreme situation of what I'm talking about here, okay? This is like a very, very extreme situation of what I'm trying to put across here, but let's just try to maintain all of our dots on all of these targets and see what that's like. So I want you guys to notice, I don't have a whole lot of time to cast Unstable Affliction, do I? Let alone maintain my Siphon Lives. I'm gonna get shard capped. There's nothing I can do about it. If I want to maintain all of these dots on 4 targets, I'm gonna get shard capped, and there's nothing I can do about it if I want to maintain all of those dots. And that's because Creeping Death is making them expire 15% faster. However, if I was to pick a talent like Dark Soul Misery in the exact same situation, let's see what happens. So I'm gonna cast Seed of Corruption here. It should be a little bit easier to find time to spend soul shards. So let's get all our dots out here. It's still going to be difficult, but it's going to be easier. So see here, I have some time to cast Unstable Affliction, where before it just didn't, there just wasn't. Just didn't have that time. But now I do, because my dots aren't falling off 15% faster. Okay, so that's one of the, you know, the weak points of the dot, is the fact that you don't really have time to cast other abilities on multiple targets. I think I kind of showed that here. You can see that I have a lot of time to actually spend soul shards, and with Dark Soul Misery being that haste buff, you can actually press that to catch up every 2 minutes and do a crazy amount of AoE damage. All right, so on multiple targets in a raid setting, it can be very hard to play with Creeping Death. That being said, you do want to alter your talents around Creeping Death in certain scenarios. So, for example, if this was like a Mythic Plus or something, you definitely want to be playing Creeping Death. Creeping Death is excellent in Mythic Plus for multiple reasons. But, so on multi-target, you might change from running Siphon Life to Absolute Corruption, and this is going to make your life a lot easier. So what you can do is cast Seed of Corruption, get your Agonies out here like this, your Vile Taint out, and you're gonna find you have lots of time because you dropped that Siphon Life, right? So on stacked AoE scenarios like this, it can be quite good to actually run Creeping Death because you don't have as many dots to maintain. It's a little bit of a different situation, but since you have time to cast your shards and stuff, Creeping Death is just going to give you 15% more value on all of your dots, alright? So that makes it very powerful as well. So there's a couple situations, you know, in a raid setting where definitely you don't want to be running Creeping Death, but for the most part, the talent is insane. You probably want to switch your talents up to make it worth it, okay? So let's put our gear back on here, not be a little naked goblin. So what sort of situations is Creeping Death like super overpowered? So we talked about the situations where it was kind of weak. What situations is it really OP? Well, the most OP one is just single target, honestly. When you only have one target, it's going to get the most benefit simply because on that single target, you're going to be generating 15 more shards. You get to refresh your dots 15% more often, which means 15% less shadow bolting, and it's just a huge, simply flat-out increase on single target. It's going to be very probably good on two-target cleaving. Once we get up to more than that, like think about a fight like, I don't know, Creeping Death would be very difficult to use on a fight like Botanist. If you think about Botanist back in Nighthold, Creeping Death would be just... I can't even imagine trying to make that work. I probably would pick Dark Soul Misery or something like that, but maybe you could find a way to make Creeping Death work on Botanist. But anyways, that's it for this video. That kind of highlights the Creeping Death talent. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about what the talent does, what situations it's good in, what situations it's bad in. Let me know what you guys think. I'm probably going to include some descriptors in the comments below for you guys who are wondering about legendaries and stuff like that. I'll probably make a video on it in the future, but I know a lot of you guys want that information right away, so I'll just put in the video description like what sort of legendaries are good right now. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.